Well, hello, Stephen. Good to see you again. Thank you for inviting us for BZ4X launch.
Well, thanks for being here. It's good to see you again.
Yes, so we're very excited for you guys because not only is it a new product, but the whole brand is new for Toyota as a Beyond Zero brand. Can you tell us what this means for Toyota globally and also for Canada?
Well, I think it means a couple of things. One, it's a signal that it's not just about the car, it's about the entire life cycle of the vehicle, from the earliest stages of production to ultimate recovery and recycling. We're trying to look at the footprint of our operations and really drive down carbon emissions. And I think you'd expect that from Toyota. We've been a big supporter of those sorts of activities going back to our original Earth Charter, and it just continues to evolve.
Excellent. Now, I know the BZ4X is the first product, hopefully I guess this kind of foreshadows all the other new models that are coming out. So is this the new beginning of a new Toyota as a kind of rebranding exercise almost?
I think what it's intended to demonstrate is that for particular vehicles that are coming out as dedicated electric vehicles, it gives you that BZ branding that allows you to to really identify those vehicles that come with a single powertrain and are dedicated to that function. That is not to suggest that there aren't going to continue to be other mainstream nameplates in the lineup. So I imagine, for example, that where the BZ4X is kind of RAV4 sized, it's not replacing RAV4.
Right.
So I think the two will coexist. What does the future look like? Well, we've seen a very similar activity with Prius, where we launched a single vehicle. It became almost a sub-brand,
right.
But then as we evolved, the model lineup continued to spin new types of vehicles, new types of powertrain. So, I think it's a signal of a direction. I think it's an important time to have that signal, but I don't anticipate that means that the way that Toyota has evolved over the years is suddenly going to be put behind us either.
Okay, so it's a kind of, again, a sub-brand within a major brand.
That's right.
But what can you tell us about sort of the way the BZ4X is being marketed? Is it supposedly going after all the other mainstream electric vehicle competitors like Tesla, or is it trying to help people migrate from existing Toyota products, maybe hybrid products, to this one?
Yeah, so I guess the best way to put this is that if we look at hybrids, we know that they are excuse the term, but they're the gateway drug to full electric vehicles.
Right.
The people who've made that choice to buy a Prius or a RAV4 hybrid or a Prius Prime or RAV4 Prime, their next car is likely to be a full electric vehicle, whether that's a battery electric vehicle or a fuel cell electric.
Right. Okay.
And so those people have already made the commitment to a different type of driving and to a more environmentally friendly type of transportation. That's one group of people. Another group of people are the folks who hadn't really thought about it until quite recently, have been driving one of our cars or SUVs, but they're now ready to add maybe a second vehicle to their household, and they want it to have a different carbon footprint. So we're being very careful in the way that we're talking about the vehicle with consumers, because we want to make sure that group of people who are part of that early mainstream audience for electric vehicles actually understand how they operate, what additional support that you need to put in charging, at your home, to think about how you use it on a daily basis, and really integrates into your lifestyle. That's going to be a big part of what we do online. Is going to be a big part of the education that's given to the dealerships so that they can work with customers to make sure that the right person's in the right car for their needs.
Now, what's going to happen with infrastructure issues with so many brands or even countries either banning the internal combustion engines or just deciding to go full electric like Lexus would eventually? And then would we be able to support all these electric cars out on the road somehow? How is that going to happen, you think?
Well, again, it depends on where you are in the country. So I think some of the projections about 2030 and 2035 are really overly ambitious for parts of Canada. And I think even if you talk to the federal government, they're not at all clear about whether or not their 2035 target means that we won't have vehicles with internal combustion engines in them.
Right.
What I do think that they expect is that we'll see vehicles that are plug-in hybrids in that category. And frankly, we may see vehicles moving to low carbon fuels as part of that strategy. So even in the case of Toyota, as you've seen recently, we've announced development programs around internal combustion hydrogen,
Right.
where
Yes. Yeah.
extremely
with hydrogen fuels, right?
with hydrogen fuel, very, very low emission, but it allows you to maintain an internal combustion engine. And for certain applications, that may be a better choice for people. So, as I said, I think as we go forward, the thing that makes a 2030 or 2035 target possible is having a broad diversity of different types of technology. If every vehicle on the road had to be a battery electric vehicle plugged into a charger somewhere,
Right.
I don't think we'd make it. We wouldn't make it because there aren't enough chargers, and there won't be enough chargers. And the electric grid in many places in the country would be very strained
Can't
to support it.
that, right.
Right.
So I guess the big question for the Beyond Zero brand or sub-brand is what is the next few years look like? I know you can't talk about future products, but as a sub-brand, where do you guys see it going, I guess?
Well, I think you've already identified the fact that Akio Toyota gave quite a large press conference back at the end of the year and showed a broad array of vehicles. Some of them were Toyota, some of them were Lexus.
Right.
And as you've acknowledged, by 2030, Lexus is aiming to be 100% electric here in North America. With the Toyota brand, you're going to continue to see not just more battery electric vehicles, but fuel cell continues to be a good part of our portfolio. And there will absolutely be more hybrids and plug-in hybrids on the way. So expect a very, very broad range of different types of vehicles. But that's, I think, what you'd expect from Toyota, because we're a mass market, mainstream brand, and so we need products that are as diverse as our customers.
Excellent. And I know we were all a bit surprised with the range of cars or vehicles that Akio Toyota showed off at that point. Most of them were concept cars, of course, but I know you can't, once again, talk about concept cars, but can you give us some indication of whether those things will become real at some point?
Well, look, you've been around a lot of auto shows, and you've seen Toyota concepts in the past, and you know that Toyota doesn't have dreamy concepts. When we bring something out and show it to the public, it's because we're close to decisions about whether or not to proceed with the vehicle. And really, it's an opportunity to get that feedback from the marketplace to say, do you like what you see? If you do, that's a good indication to us that we should turn it from an idea into a product.
So we should just openly let you guys know which ones we like, right? So that you'll eventually become a real production car.
Yeah,
hopefully.
maybe at the end of the video you could just have a list
We'll have a little
and
poll.
let people choose.
Excellent. Now, I know this is deviating a little bit from electric car discussion, but the GR Corolla, of course, is a big news recently, and it's a very different kind of car from BZ4X because it's obviously a performance model. Where do you see the GR brand going then? It's also kind of sub-brand. It's maybe a bigger deal in Japan because of Gazoo Racing. Just the branding itself is more noticeable there, but what about for North America or for Canada?
Okay, well, I guess a couple of things. One is it is our global brand.
Yes, yeah.
But in North America, it has had to compete in part against Toyota Racing Development, which has a long history, a lot of connection to North American racing, as well as truck series. So those two brands are going to continue to exist in our lineup here in North America. But I think now that you've seen the third vehicle added to the GR brand here in North America, you get a sense that we're fully committed, and this is a direction that we intend to pursue. So this goes back to my earlier comment. We're really the last full-line manufacturer in the Canadian industry now. We do everything from cars to full-size pickup trucks. We do sports cars to utility vehicles, and we do all different types of powertrain. And the purpose then is to make sure that, well, I guess my basic message is that if you're in the market for a new car and you haven't shopped Toyota, then you haven't really started shopping at all.
Of course, and I own many Toyota products, so I'm one of your customers.
Okay, I appreciate that too. But the point is, we're trying to make sure that when you're covering the marketplace, and this goes back to my earlier comment, we have a very, very diverse group of customers. And it's not sufficient for us to sell a RAV4.
Right.
We need to have a host of SUVs and pickup trucks. We need to have a host of cars because that's where we came from. We need sports because it injects enthusiasm into the lineup. We need environmentally forward vehicles because that really is the future of the industry. So, we're working on all of those fronts. And I'm going to try to say this as humbly as I possibly can. I don't think there's another car company that could work on as many different types of powertrain and many different types of products as we do. And, so there are days when that's very complex.
Right.
And particularly in an era of strained supply lines, that adds to the complexity of things. But we think it's important for our customers to have that choice.
Well, I mean, you are the largest car company in the world and actually largest car company in the U.S. as well now. But supply chain, I know you can't predict everything, but is there, can you give us some idea of where it's headed, I guess, in terms of whether you think it'll get better? And aside from all these different things happening in the world, yes, assuming that nothing else happens down the road, can we begin to assume that things will get better?
So I guess there are two aspects to this. One is I never make predictions about what's going to happen in the world next.
Especially recently. Right?
Especially recently.
Yeah.
But we certainly plan for it to get better. Right? And that's really what this comes down to, is if you were to sit back and have no plan,
right,
it's unlikely to improve. But the one thing that Toyota is very good at is identifying problems and then working out solutions to them, and so that's our process. But even when I think that things are on the right track, then you'll have something that is completely beyond your control, like an earthquake that shuts down a supplier, in which case you have to start to rebuild again. I think it's why it's so important that we are moving our production, as has been our history, to the places where we sell our vehicles. And so the result of that is that Toyota is now the largest manufacturer of vehicles in Canada. We built in Ontario more vehicles than Ford, GM, and Stellantis combined last year.
Yeah, excellent.
And that's the best guarantee of being able to get a vehicle, is to know that the supply chain is local and the manufacturing is done locally.
So I know that when I interviewed you several months ago at the Corolla Cross event, this is before all the things that are happening in Europe, of course. We were hoping that supply chain will improve around this time, maybe summertime. And I guess it hasn't, maybe improved a little bit, but we also took a back step. So do you think, let's say in a year time, do you think things will look quite different? Again, assuming nothing else happens in the world.
So are you going to be back in a year's time to say, a year ago you said?
Maybe.
All right. Well, the reality of it is it should.
It should. Yeah,
okay. But as I said, I have given up on making projections more than next Tuesday, because so many things have been going on. But as I said, we plan for improvements. Mm-hmm. We are strengthening our supply chains to the production, 75% or so of which happens in North America now for the North American market. And to the extent that we can do that, then it just improves the situation for our dealers and customers, and that's what we're committed to.
Of course. And I'm really looking forward to the GR Corolla, so hopefully I'll have a chance to drive it. And but for now, that's all we have. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Not at all. So I hope you got your request in early to drive it, because I got a long list.
I do. I think Romarica is going to look after me, right? So hopefully we'll get to drive it. Maybe, who knows, maybe I'll own one at some point.
Great. Looking forward to hearing what you think.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you again.
Thanks a bunch.